Well, guess what? As many of you know, we had our dog Skipper. We lost him back in January, and my wife and I decided that sometime in the near future we would find a new dog to go to be companion to our dog April, who was very lonely. She didn't have anybody to play with during the day, and as some of you know, my wife volunteers at a local animal shelter an afternoon each week, and it's where we get our dogs when the time comes. And she called me the other day and started sending me texts last week, actually, while I was doing the video of this little dog. And we're going to keep him. He's part Schnauzer. We think he's either part Shepherd or Wolfhound. We're not sure. We may even go the extra mile and maybe get a DNA test for him. But we've named him Buckaroo, or Buck. And here he is. He's kind of falling asleep. A minute ago, he was squirming around like crazy. And now he's sort of resting and being his quiet self. He's got a really nice personality. We're really glad to have him. He's a good size dog. He's only about 3 months old, but we think he's going to be quite large by the time he's done, judging by the size of these feet and these great big ears. But he's awfully nicely dispositioned. I think he wants to go and run off with April now. Go ahead. Oh, off he goes. And he's going to be a great addition to the house, I'm sure. And I know a number of you are dog lovers and understand completely where we're coming from. And if you're a pet owner in general, you understand you get used to having a couple of great dogs around. You lose one, and it's extremely difficult. We held off on getting him until we returned from our trip. We didn't know we were going to get him, but we didn't start looking until we were back. And lo and behold, this little pup just fell into our lap at the shelter, and we brought him home. Perfect fit, and we're delighted. So there we are, and we'll show you more of him as he grows. He's going to be a pretty good-sized dog, I think. And he's doing really well here. He chased his first squirrel the other day. He's already been swimming in the ocean once and in one of the quarries near here, even though the water is still very cold. He loved it. Let him off leash. He went right into the water. So he's a water dog. And he's fascinated by the raccoon living in our yard right now, too. So that's something that's going on. So anyway, here we are. We'll get on with the regular video, but I just wanted to share that bit of good news with everybody. And here we go. There he is. He's back here. Oh, by the way, that's his screen for his little fenced-in area when we're not home. We sort of cage off an area down the hallway leading into the kitchen area so we can have some movement when we're not home. So, but we're usually here. So there we go. All right. Bye-bye. Well, here we are. So it's been an interesting week. With the new dog and everything. And this is also, of course, the day we do the weekly video. We do these every Friday. We talk about a few things that have sold here and there on Live Auctioneers, on Christie's and Sotheby's, things that are coming up. There's a couple of Bonham sales that are coming up that are pretty good that we've been talking about. There's a Hong Kong sale coming up with a number of good lots in it. Over at Christie's and so forth. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago while we were, I think right after we got back from Belize or while we were away. I had bought a couple of things at Leland Little's sale, which happened last month while we were away. I left a couple of bids just for the fun of it. And I got these, the Satsuma plates. And I want to show them a little bit to you here. Here they are. They're very nice. There's three of them here. Hold on, let's get them up here. Here's the first one. And these are fairly rustic types. They're like stoneware. I've always liked them a lot. They have a slight raised enamels on them. And this is one of them right here. And then there is this one, which is sort of a pair or a mate to this one. Which is what caught my eye. I thought it was rather interesting. And one of them comes with a tag on the back, apparently a pair of mid to late 1800s Satsuma pottery chargers with scenes of Reikan, the Buddhist disciples, and so forth. $1,230 for the pair. $1,230 for the pair was the selling price of these some time ago. And I bought all of these at the Leland Little sale for $125 plus the premium. Which was a pretty amazing buy. I didn't think I'd get them. I actually left quite a bit more than that. I left them about I think 150 each on them, just thinking I probably wouldn't get them even then. And lo and behold, I got them for $125. And it just shows you the kind of things that you can still buy If you're interested in Asian art that aren't going to break the bank, that are extremely attractive, nice antique pieces. They're good size, as you can see, and they're visually very interesting, and especially with a pair, because you don't see pairs of these very often. It's sort of a rare bird. So I was very, very happy to get them. One of them has a faint line in the pottery body itself on the back. I think it's the first one I showed you has a line in it, which doesn't bother me much because it was the two prizes I thought were these. And I got the other one sort of as a throw-in with it. And as an aside, also I want to compliment. You put these down without breaking them. Yikes! Got it. Okay. Hope the new puppy doesn't come in and knock them over. I want to compliment Leland Little on their shipping. Somebody commented on their shipping. They had bought something from there in last week's video and how pleased they were. And I have to say, they came spectacularly well packed in paper with bubble wrap, not peanuts flying all over the place. They have whoever's doing their packing is doing a really good job. Nice heavy stock paper, folded, done properly, double boxed. And the shipping was very nominal. It was a very reasonable fee. It was a couple of $100 in shipping, and they came in a very big box. So I think the shipping for this portion, I bought a couple of things, but these I think the portion of the shipping on it was about maybe $130 or $40 or something. It was very reasonable. It was very, very reasonable. So kudos to that. And I'm thinking of adding to the report card on the for the Patreon and the global member users. We have the report card we have on there with about 470 auction houses. And I'm going to keep an eye on how many auction houses are offering shipping. And we may add that as a category to that report card so you can check it. To see if they do in-house shipping, because I'm going to harp on in-house shipping for auction houses forever, because I think at this point the horse is out of the barn. If you're going to do online sales, and some of these auction houses don't even have audience and attendance anymore, which is not uncommon, it's all online, they have to offer shipping. They simply have to, or they are going to lose audience to the people that do offer shipping. I think it's absolutely crazy that they don't. It's absolutely crazy that these auction houses are not all setting up to do shipping. And they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it. All right, now on to things that happened or coming up in the last week, and some things that sold. The Tremont sale in Sudbury, Mass, up here in Massachusetts. My friends Jim Callahan and Brett Downer had a nice sale last week, and in it was one of these Chinese pronk dishes using the arbor pattern. This was a rather nice one. Nice green colors in the background. It was estimated a little heavy. I think that was probably the consignor pushing that. Usually when you see big estimates on some of these sales, it's the consignor. But it ended up selling okay. It ended up selling for $2,800 plus the premium. So it came in right sort of in the lower range of the estimate. These plates typically sell for this price. This is what they normally go for between $2,200, $2,300, and $3,500 a piece. This one sold for $2,800 plus premium. So it did just fine. Nice looking plate, measured 14 inches in diameter though. It was a Charger. It was bigger than average. It was not like a 9 or 10 inch plate, which sells for about $1,000 typically. The bigger plates bring a premium, even if it's only just a couple inches bigger. Size makes a huge difference. All right, and they also had this really great painting. I don't know. I hope we featured it on the for the global pages and the Patreon pages. This is a wonderful painting of Jai Qing's court in the early 19th century, and this particular scene has been repeated. It was a very popular subject matter. In India, they show very similar paintings that sold at Christie's and big auction houses, and there are lots of dealers in London that have had them over the years. This was a really nice one, and it was estimated at 15 to 18,000. It went well over that. It ended up selling for about that would come in at around 24,000, 23,000. So with the buyer's premium, but it's a very, very rare painting. And the Jai Qing Emperor was. I'm putting together a video about him and his sort of odd beginning of his reign when Qianlong was in power, where Qianlong stepped down from the throne, but he didn't really leave the throne. He was the power behind the throne, and he basically didn't let Jai Qing have any real power until he was dead. He was sort of like the king and like the emperor in waiting, so to speak. And Chinlung made some horrible mistakes because of he was becoming senile later in life, which they don't talk too much about. And Chai-Ching was really the guy that saved the finances of the empire. And I'm going to be talking about that in a video. It's a very interesting story. And here he is in his court. This was a wonderful painting. Really wonderful painting, and I hope an institution bought it because they don't turn up very often. Maybe the Peabody bought it or something, or the MFA. It's great painting, great painting. And then over to this. This is something that's coming up on the 19th. Oak Ridge has a very good 3-day sale coming up. We've got them on the global and Patreon pages. Some very good silks in particular. And one of the pieces they've got is this really great kingfisher feather hat. Probably Republic or late Qing, but beautifully done, beautifully done. There's the back of it. It looks to be extremely complete. They're dating this 19th century. I think it was made a little after that. But for those of you that are interested in the accoutrements, this is a nice thing. And the estimate's very modest, $100 to $200. It's already up to $300. It's going to do pretty well. It's probably going to bring $1,500 to $2,000. But it's a nice thing. Oak Ridge tends to put very modest estimates on things. They push hard for consigners to let the market decide what the things are going to bring, because the market always decides what things are worth, whether the consignor likes it or not. Oak Ridge does a good job at getting people to say, look, if you want to sell it and auction it, put a low. They follow the estimate rules very well. Low estimates indicating low reserves, and let the market tell you what it's worth. And they do a good job advertising. So here you have this, very nice a rank badge. Looks like a 4th or 5th rank badge. Nicely done, all framed up. It's going to bring more than $200 or $300 or $400 to $600. It'll probably bring $800 to $1,000. And then they have this. This is very nice. It's a jadeite court lady scene, or court figure with an attendant carrying a vase with flowers coming out of it. Nicely colored stone. The stand could use a little oil, but very nice. There's a couple of good jades in here. It's estimated at 100 to 200. It's going to do better than that. It measures 6 inches tall. It'll probably bring $800 to $1,200 somewhere in there. But it's a nice looking piece of green jadeite. Very pretty color. And this is coming up at Stair Gallery, a very nice 17th century bottle with a garlic neck on it. You've seen these before. This is a good size one. It's 14 inches tall. Very attractive, looks to be in good condition. A lot of the ones that are around like this were hauled up, as some of you may recall, from shipwrecks. These are often described as being shipwreck bottles. I don't see any evidence of that, and they're not saying that it was. So you might, if you're interested in this, maybe contact Stair. The sale is on the 16th, so you have a little bit of time. And ask them if it was in a shipwreck or not. And if it was in a shipwreck, is the glaze heavily affected or whatnot? It doesn't look like the glaze is affected at all, so this may not be one of them. But it's one of these mid-17th century sort of transitional pieces. It's very attractive. And the estimate is $700 to $900. It's going to go way beyond that, I suspect. Typically, these bottles sell for $2,000 to $3,000. But this is a nice example. It appears to be a very nice example. You get a condition report, of course. But it is 14 inches tall, 7 inches in diameter. It's a good example. So worth looking into if you buy these. Now, these are coming up at Bonham's. I don't know if I mentioned these last weekend. I meant to, so I may be repeating myself here. But this is a lacquer-coated pair of Amari vases with lacquer decoration on them. I love lacquer on porcelain. When the Japanese did it, they did some great things with it. And this is a very unusual looking pair. And I love these rolled fat feet they put on here, and the underglazed blue coming through. And then you have the samurais in the scenes. It's sort of stalking each other. Very, very attractive. Beautiful lacquer work too on top of it. The lacquer here is very, very good. Lots of detail. And the estimate on them is quite reasonable. It's $600 to $800 for the pair. And this is coming up over in London, I believe, on the 12th. The bidding starts on the 12th. I think the sale closes on the 16th. I'm not sure. But do check that out. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that here in Massachusetts, John McGinnis has a sale coming up tomorrow. This is sort of a reminder. It's a sort of a short notice reminder if you happen to have missed it. It's been featured. He's been on the Global and the Patreon pages for over a month. But just as a reminder, everybody, if you've been looking at it, this is the sale that has this really great mid 19th century, first half of the 19th century carved frame for pictures. And it's beautifully done. It is in I would call what they used to call grunge condition. The finish on it sort of dried out. This looks like it's been in somebody's attic for a long time, from what what it appears to be. And this will need a good going over with some wood oil, some Howard's wax and feed or something very gently. Spend some time if you buy this, clean it up, get the color back into it. This will be a beautiful thing. And if you have Chinese pith paintings, or you have even family pictures and so forth, some sepia black and whites of your family will look great in these openings. These are meant to take portraits and pictures and whatnot. And this is a fabulous frame. It really is. And it's very, very delicate, but it looks to be in quite good condition for its size. It's 17 inches wide, 17 inches tall rather, and 14 inches wide. So it's pretty good size. And it's only estimated at $300 to $600. It's got a couple of bids already. It's up to $175. It closes tomorrow. Hop on it tonight and get registered if you like this. It should bring $500 to $700. I think it'll get there. But it's a really nice piece of export carving, beautifully done with the phoenixes on each side, and then the figures riding the water buffalo in the middle. I think this is just a great thing in Shao characters. Nice looking thing. And this is also something I mentioned. I posted this over on the Patreon page. For those of you who subscribed, just a heads up a few days ago, is this really nice pair of very large 18th century Japanese Amari vases that have lacquer decoration. Again, we come back to lacquer. And these are elegant looking. And they have these massive finials on top. But beautifully done with underglazed blue. I absolutely love these vases. Here they are. And there's some losses to the lacquer on here. They're not absolutely perfect, but they're powerful looking. And I think they're very, very attractive. And these lacquer pieces don't turn up very often. They're only estimated at $800 to $1,200 for the pair. They measure 27 inches tall. These are big pots. And if you like Japanese Amari and you're interested in the lacquer work that they did, you might want to look at these. These are pretty great. And this sale is coming up on the 16th also of this month. All right. So check that out. Now, listen, also the other thing that's coming up tomorrow as a reminder is another pair of these Pronk arbor plates. And these are a bit smaller. These are only 8 inches in diameter. They're estimated at $2,000 to $3,000. I suspect they'll probably get to the low range of that, or roughly around $1,000 a piece. But you just saw the ones that were a similar style plate done by Pronk that were sold at the Tremont sale, and what that plate brought. But that was a Charger. That was a 14-inch one. These are 40%, 50% smaller, 40% smaller. But very desirable. So if you're looking for a pair of Pronk dishes, there you have it. And the last thing I'm going to mention that's coming up on Live Auctioneers is, because not a lot was added this week. We checked repeatedly, and not a lot of new sales were added. But this is the Alex Jones, Andrew Jones auction out in L.A., and he handles pretty good things. And I wanted to mention this for those of you that like China trade for certain markets. And this appears to be this is a China trade bowl either for the Indian, the Mughal market, or for the Persian market. They did very similarly decorated things for both markets. There's no calligraphy or script on it that's shown anywhere, but this is a very nice bowl, and it's 14 inches in diameter, and I love the design. I love the pattern. I love the way the bands curve going around this. It gives it almost a sense of motion, but very, very nice, and export for the Indian or Middle Eastern market. Nice looking bowl, 14 inches wide, and it appears to be without any damage. The conditioner has some rubbing and whatnot and some old dealer stickers on it, but they don't mention in the condition down here, which they do provide, you might want to check it out. And I want to point out that they ship with Live Auctioneers on here, so they apparently have some sort of deal for shipping and there's a questions for packaging and so forth. So they may be stepping into the fray on doing the shipping or having a special shipping arrangement. So do check that out as well. That's very important, I think. And I'm going to keep saying it's important until everybody decides to do it. I'm going to nag everybody to death. And then there's a couple of things that sold last week that did quite well. One of them, this particular seller, Royal Delft Blue, who's a seller over in the Netherlands, had a nice looking Marken period Kangxi dish with the ladies in the central scene and so forth. Nice figural plate. It was, I don't think this was a charger. I don't think this was that big. It was, it was about 8 inches in diameter, and it had a small rim frit and some polishing to the rim, a couple of small hairlines, and it still sold for $866 because it's Marken period. And Marken period things always bring a premium. They had several others as well. Another one brought $865, I think, and then they had some other plates that may have had Chun Mar marks on them. They brought about half that. But it was a nice looking lot of things. Very attractive. And the other thing that sold pretty well was this was from J-Garts Limited over in the UK. Had this wonderful Cantonese sandalwood box. Caught my eye because, as some of you have seen, when I've done videos before, I have a Cantonese sandalwood box that I've owned for many, many years that I love. And I spotted this. I said, boy, this is a good one, too. I didn't leave a bid on it. I probably should have, but I've got a little too much stuff around here right now. So just ask my wife. And life of a dealer. And anyway, this was a good-looking box. It, of course, could use a little bit of oil and whatnot. Unfortunately, a lot of wood carvings don't get the oil they need, and I'm always harping on that when people do submissions to the identification assistant. I say, now go out and get some good wood oil for that and get it cleaned up and get some moisture back into that wood because you don't want them cracking out on you. But this was a nice box, and somebody paid $634 or 506 pounds for it, which is perfectly reasonable. It was a nice box, probably done in the mid-19th century. And then over to this, the mug that we mentioned last week. This was that armorial mug that was being sold by a seller I wasn't that familiar with, NM9696, whoever that is. But they had this nice-looking armorial mug on here. And I don't know, he didn't have Howard's book, so we couldn't look it up, and I didn't look it up. But it sold exactly for about what we thought it would sell for these days, $331. I think we said $300 to $400 for it. Perfectly reasonable price. Nice looking mug in good condition. It had a little fracturing on the back here by the just above the handle. You can sort of see it right there, that gray area. But other than that, it was fine. And the enamels were in good shape. So that was a big part of the battle. And then over to this 19th century fishbowl or planter. It measured, what was it, about a foot tall, right? It was a foot tall, a little over a foot tall, 13 inches tall or so, and about 9 inches wide. Nice looking porcelain, 19th century. The enamels all look good on it. It was a good thing. And somebody picked it up for $825 from a seller in the UK. And interestingly, the shipping on this wasn't too terrible. It was approximately 65 pounds or $80 to ship it to the U.S. or to Boston from London to where I am. So that's pretty reasonable. That was pretty reasonable. I don't know how the Brits ship things so reasonably. We don't get those kind of rates here. And then there was that Bianco Sopra Bianco cup that I liked. I just thought it was very interesting, rather unusual, pleasing colors and so forth. And you can see the white enamels over the white porcelain, and then the blue and green outlined areas of vines and flowers. And I like this. And I thought, well, it's probably going to bring 100, 125, maybe a little bit more. And it brought 135, which is right about smack where it should be. But it's an interesting thing. And I always like it when interesting things turn up. Had a little bit of roughness along the edge there and so forth. It was all depicted perfectly well. But it was a nice looking example. Interesting piece. And then last things that sold last week was the clobbered late 18th, early 19th century Fitzhugh strap handle teapot with a berry finial on it. This was a nice one. It had very unusual decoration, especially on the spout. It really caught my eye were the flowers. There's the top of it. and there's the flowers on the spout. It looks a lot like Dutch work to me, and but nice sense of color, beautifully done, and it went for $405. Again, right about where it should sell. Nice looking thing, nice looking thing. And then hopping along, a few things are coming up on eBay this week. One of them is this very nice hair crystal on quartz snuff bottle being sold by Stubbsy Wubsy over in the UK. He gets interesting things, and you can see the hair crystals inside. Very, very nice bottle. Very nice. Looks like it might have a line in the body there, or maybe a couple of chips or something, or it could just be fractures in the quartz too. Sometimes they look like breaks and they're really not. But this is a nice looking bottle. It's up to $73. It closes on Sunday, and it's probably going to jump up to $300 or $400 anyway at the end. But good looking bottle. And then there was back to this. I wanted to mention this because somebody last week, after I talked about this piece of Wang Hing silver with the enamel work on it, they said that a Lion and Turnbull has a very similar example. And I just want to let that person know they do. And so if you miss out on this one, you maybe can buy the one at Lion and Turnbull. They're very, very similar. It's posted on the Global and Patreon pages, so you can go check it out. And very, very interesting. All right, and then over to this. This is just a reminder. This is a very interesting brush pot transitional period. Brush pot is closing in a couple of days on Sunday, being sold by Joni's. Nice looking pot. It's got some rough edges to it, but it's a very desirable type, so expect it to jump up a good bit at the end. As you can see here, it's got some chips around the top. And I don't know what it is with chips around the tops of transitional brush pots. It's kind of strange. I was looking at a pot the other day for somebody in the identification service, and it was another transitional brush pot that had all these little tiny nicks around the top. And it may just because it was used so much. It's the only thing I can think of that would cause them. They were used and loved so much they got chips. Just from being handled over and over and over and over again for 400 years. And I suppose that can happen. But anyway, this should get up to probably to 3,000 to 4,000 before it closes, or when it closes. All right, and then over to this, if the page loads, there we go. This popped up this week. And this is getting right up there. And I'm I think the price is a little bit out over its skis at this point, but people are bidding on it. But it's an unusual thing. It's a Faubourg a little brush rest. Done during the, I don't know, did they even date it? It's a 19th century example. I don't think it's Qinlong or anything. They're just calling it Chinese Famille Rose figural scroll thing. I'm not sure. They may not know what it is. There's a couple of chips where the paint is coming off from being moved around. It's an inch or so long, and it's a little brush rest. But it's done in faux bois, where it looks like it's been painted to look like wood grain here and here. And you see some chips on the bottom there that they mentioned in the description. They did a good job describing it condition-wise and all. The date of this, I would probably date to being either Chai Qing period or Daoguan. But it's an interesting thing. It's a fairly rare bird. But I'm not sure about why it's bringing quite that much money. It'll be in the newsletter page. You can decide for yourself. But to me, it seems to be about where it should be, and it doesn't close until Monday. No, it may not move much more. I don't know, but it will be. I'll tell you next week what we can see what it brings next week when we do the video. I'll be very curious. And one of the things I wanted to point out for the Japanese Amari collectors out there, some of these are familiar with these, and you'll know that one of the pieces that were turned out fairly often by the Meissen factory were copies of this very same plate. This was a very, very popular pattern in the late 18th century in Germany and in Europe among Amari fans, and the Meissen factory, which was in production at that time, began producing these, and they are often on the market, and there's always a confusion about whether it's a Meissen thing or a Japanese original. This is a Japanese original. It's a pretty rare bird. It was made in the probably in the 1690s or so, 17th century. Pretty rare. And there's the back of it with the H pattern spur marks here, very nicely finished. And so forth. I think it has a hairline or something in it, But it's a very interesting piece. It has no bids and it ends on Monday. And how it doesn't have a bid at $118 is beyond me. This is absolutely authentic. And people see them and see this color and they often think, oh, that's the 19th century Meiji period. It's not 17th century. No, this is 17th century. They were able to do these very early on. The Meiji examples were the ones that they sort of went back and looked at these and said, yeah, we can still make these. And so it has that same look. A lot of the Meiji examples were sort of revival copies of some of the earlier pieces of Amari. This is one of the earlier pieces. It's very, very nice. So if you're an Amari collector, do check it out. It'll be on the newsletter page this week. And also this, I don't know, they're calling it faux tortoiseshell. I think that's to get around the censors at eBay. This is being sold in the UK. And in the UK lately, I've noticed that UK and in France and Italy and so forth, I'm seeing ivory and tortoiseshell and rhino horns turning up back in auctions over there because I think they realize that the antique ivory market has nothing to do with the poaching market, and the antique rhino market has absolutely nothing to do with today's contemporary rhino poaching, because the rhino poaching that goes on today, they're not carving rhino horn cups out of them. They're sending them all to Vietnam and grinding them down for medicinal purposes. People think that they're men over there think that they're aphrodisiacs. It's sort of a silly superstition. As everybody knows, rhino horns are nothing more than basically fingernails. They're keratin. That's all they are. They're just there's no medicinal use to them at all. But at any rate, you get some Viagra if you want to have some fun, I guess. And then over to this. This is a very nice tortoiseshell carving. If you're in the UK or in Europe, buy it. If you're in the US, I don't suggest you try to buy this because it may well get flagged coming through customs. It's up to you. It's been rethreaded. It's been restrung. These blue threads replacements, which is very common. But this is a nice looking carving. It's up to 196 US or 157 pounds. It should get up to 600 or 800 by the time it's done. This is a very good example. Really, really nice. Probably close to $800, I would think. And then this is eBay consignor store out in down in Winter Park in Florida, and there's a lot of good material in Florida. And this seller has a couple of these transitional period jars that are coming up. These are authentic. These look absolutely fine. There's the bottom. It's got an old star line in it, but there's the foot rim on it, a little bit chewed up and irregular the way they should look. And there's another one as well, and I'm assuming they came from the same consignor, but absolutely authentic. Very typical pattern, but nice size, pretty good size. And they're up to just $42. They close on Thursday. This is a fairly new listing, but they should get up to $1,000 to $1,500. But if you've been looking for a pair of these Lion transitional jars in this size, this is a good size. These are a little bit. Some of them are fairly small, maybe 4 or 5 inches. This one is a good bit bigger. It looks like it's 7 or 8 inches. See what the dimensions are. 7.5 inches tall. There you go. So that should be a pretty good thing. And then on to this. This is the last thing I want to talk about. This is really a nice thing. If you're interested in clobbered pieces, this is clobbered and lacquered. And it's an 18th century, it looks like an 18th century trumpet vase. There's a picture of the bottom. The lacquer spilled over the foot rim and some gilding down here, so it's a little bit hard to see. But this looks like, certainly looks like Chinese Amari, a Chinese beaker that was done over to me. And I think this is fascinating. This is one of the, because it's lacquered and clobbered, which makes it very interesting, I think. And I love the bottom of it, how they did it. It's got very much almost a Anglo-Indian pattern down there with the vines. And you see this very similar pattern sometimes carved into Mughal jades and so forth, jade vases and whatnot. And I just love this. And you should also see it on the cartouches of Persian work. So this may have been clobbered for that market. I'm not sure. Or somebody wanted it clobbered in that style. It's only up to $15, but it's only been online for a little over a day. I think it'll get up there at the end. This is a fairly rare bird, and it measures 8 inches in height, a little over 8 inches in height, 21 centimeters. So it's perfectly good size. It's an interesting thing, as they say, and interesting things are always fun to buy. All right, so that's about it for the week. I'm still getting caught up on the inquiries. Those of you that have identification assisted inquiries that came in, even though I was away on vacation, I was when I opened the file, I started looking at the inquiries that did come in while we were gone last week as I was getting off the medication I was on from the pneumonia. And there were over 300 inquiries came in while I was gone. And everybody, nearly everybody said, don't, take care of it when you get back. Don't worry about it. So I'm sort of wading through them. I think I'm up to the 25th or the 24th of April now. I've done the first 3 weeks of April this week. So we're getting there. But if you have an inquiry in there, a little patience. I'm getting caught up. I'm still sort of getting over what happened when he got home, but that's a whole other thing. But we're getting there. We're getting there. And thank you for your patience and so forth. But I was stunned at how many inquiries came in, even though everybody knew I was away. It's sort of strange. At any rate, that's about it. Thanks to those of you. On the Patreon page, if you subscribe to Patreon and you didn't get the email today, we've uploaded to there, and we'll be putting them up as catalogs too. The two Bonham sales that just popped up. There's a Japanese sale and a Chinese works of art sale, and we'll be converting them into catalogs and posting also over on the bookshelf on Bitamount. But I uploaded the original. The first drafts are on Patreon right now if you want to go through and flip through it and have a look. All right. So that's about it for the week. Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Give us a thumbs up if you like the videos. And have a great weekend. And we'll be getting back to doing I've got 2 or 3 videos I'm working on right now. I got so tied up doing replies this week trying to get caught up. I didn't get to those. But we're working on a number of things. We got the outline for one all done. And there's an outline for another one that's in the process. And then we'll go from there and screw it all together. So have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week. All right, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.